under the harsh glare of a solitary street lamp. Ryan Cole eased his battered pickup truck into the cracked parking lot of the Desert Bloom gas station. The clock on the dashboard read 2:13 a.m., and the weight of the night pressed heavy against the windows. He had been driving for hours through the vast expanse of the Mojave Desert, seeking a moment of quiet, a pause from the relentless rhythm of his life. Once a Navy SEAL, now a security consultant, Ryan had traded combat zones for corporate boardrooms, but some instincts never faded. The gas station sat on the fringe of a small desert town, its neon sign flickering intermittently, as if struggling against the encroaching dark. The building looked abandoned at first glance, with dusty windows and an empty forecourt. Yet, the faint buzz of the old fluorescent lights inside hummed faintly, a lone beacon in the stillness. Ryan's keen eyes scanned the perimeter as he cut the engine and stepped out, boots crunching on gravel and broken glass. Before we continue, make sure to like and subscribe to never miss a new video. And tell me, where are you watching this video from? I love seeing all different people come together for these stories. The air was dry and sharp, carrying a hint of sagebrush and distant heat. But beneath the expected desert stillness, Ryan sensed something off, an eerie silence that swallowed the usual background noises of crickets or a distant coyote's howl. His body tensed, muscles coiling beneath his worn jacket. Years of training had taught him to trust these subtle signals, the invisible threads of danger woven into the fabric of a place. He moved toward the entrance, the soft scrape of his footsteps muffled by the night's hush. The door's glass was smeared with desert dust, and the faded posters inside hinted at a forgotten era. Advertisements for soda brands long discontinued, a yellowed map of the region, and a bulletin board littered with peeling flyers. Ryan's gaze flicked upward to the security camera mounted near the ceiling, its red light blinking steadily. A faint noise drew his attention, a subtle shuffle, almost imperceptible against the backdrop of silence. It came from the bathroom at the back of the station, a narrow metal door half hidden in shadow. Ryan approached cautiously, the old wooden floorboards creaking beneath his weight. He pressed his ear against the door and caught the unmistakable sound of quiet, shallow breathing. "Hello?" His voice was low but steady, carrying the authority of someone used to command and control. No response came, only the continued trembling breaths. Ryan drew back his hand, then knocked gently. "If you're hurt or scared, I'm here to help." The door creaked open just a crack, revealing a pair of wide, terrified eyes framed by strands of tangled hair. A young girl, no older than 10, peeked out, clutching something close to her chest. Ryan's sharp gaze caught the slight movement. A dark shape huddled against her side. A dog. Shadow, he would later learn. The girl's lips quivered, but no words emerged. Her eyes darted around, searching for an escape, for something to hold on to in this desolate place. Ryan knelt slowly, hands raised to show he meant no harm. "It's okay. You're safe now. What's your name?" Still no answer. Instead, she tightened her grip around the dog, pulling it closer like a shield. Ryan noticed the dog's ears pinned back, body tense like a guardian ready to strike. The protective stance told him more than words ever could. This girl and her dog were hiding from something, someone dangerous. The night stillness pressed in again, but Ryan's mind raced. This was no random encounter. Something dark trailed them here, and time was slipping away. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a small flashlight and a granola bar, setting the light near the girl and offering the snack with a gentleness that belied his steely exterior. Carefully, the girl's hand emerged, trembling as she took the granola bar. Her eyes flicked up to Ryan's, a flicker of trust sparking through the fear. He gave a brief nod of reassurance before standing, scanning the perimeter once more. The desert night had secrets, and he was determined to unearth them. Ryan's instinct screamed that this was no ordinary night, no simple roadside stop. The girl, the dog, the silence, it all wove together into a dangerous tapestry. Somewhere out there, shadows moved with purpose, hunting, closing in, and he was the only barrier between them and a fate far worse than the desert's cold night. He glanced back at the girl, her small frame barely visible in the dim light, and made a silent vow. Whatever had driven her into this desolate place, whatever peril lurked in the darkness, he would stand between them and the coming storm. The desert held many secrets, but Ryan had survived worse. Tonight, he would prove why. The girl's grip tightened around the dog's thick fur as Ryan settled onto the cracked linoleum floor just outside the bathroom door. The faint hum of the flickering fluorescent light above was the only sound punctuating the tense silence. The dog, a sleek, black German shepherd with wary amber eyes, pressed itself protectively against the girl's side, muscles coiled and ready to spring at the slightest provocation. Ryan kept his hands where she could see them, slow and deliberate, a silent promise that he meant no harm. Minutes passed like hours as the girl's wide eyes flickered between Ryan's calm face and the cracked window where the desert night seemed to press inward, an invisible threat lurking beyond. Finally, her voice broke the quiet, a barely audible whisper, trembling with fear. "Please, don't let them find me." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "Who's coming for you?" She swallowed hard, gaze dropping to the floor. "I don't know. But they're bad. They said they'd take me back. They said I saw things I shouldn't have." The words hung heavy between them, a chilling confession that sent a shiver down Ryan's spine. He had faced threats before, enemies with cold, calculating minds. But this fear, the kind that froze a child in place, was something else entirely. It was raw, desperate, and deeply personal. The dog shifted, letting out a low growl, and Ryan looked down to meet its steady gaze. "Hey, Shadow," he said softly, testing the waters. The dog's dark eyes flicked up to him, then back to the girl, protective but curious. Ryan nodded once, acknowledging the silent bond between dog and girl. "You're safe here," he assured them both. "But we need to get you somewhere secure. Can you tell me your name?" The girl hesitated, fingers tightening around Shadow's collar. After a long pause, she whispered, "Mia." Ryan committed the name to memory. Mia, a small beacon in the vast desert night. He glanced around the gas station, noting the flickering lights of the pump signs and the cracked walls that seemed to lean inward like a fortress against the dark. Yet, the isolation that had drawn him here now felt like a trap. "Do you have anywhere to go? Anyone you trust?" Ryan asked gently, searching her face for any sign of hope. Mia shook her head, eyes brimming with tears. "No one. They took my parents, and I ran. I don't know where to go." The weight of her words settled heavily on Ryan. The desert was unforgiving, a place where the weak were swallowed whole. Yet here was a child, vulnerable and alone, carrying a secret dangerous enough to make her a target. His mind raced through the possibilities. Who were they? What had Mia seen? And why had they come for her now? He reached into his jacket pocket again, pulling out a small pack of water and a few antiseptic wipes. "We're going to have to move soon," he said, his voice low but steady. "But first, You need to drink this and clean up a bit. You look like you've been running for a long time. Mia accepted the water, her hands trembling as she took slow sips. Shadow pressed his head against her leg, offering silent comfort. Ryan watched the scene unfold, a flicker of something like hope stirring beneath the fear. Suddenly, a noise from outside snapped his attention, a distant crunch of gravel under heavy boots. Ryan's military training kicked in instantly. He rose, moving swiftly to the door, peering out into the darkness. The empty parking lot stretched before him, bathed in pale moonlight. But shadows shifted unnaturally near the edge of the lot, where the desert met the asphalt. "Someone's coming," Ryan muttered. He turned back to Mia, whose eyes widened with fresh terror. "You're not alone out here." Mia clutched Shadow tighter, her small frame trembling. Ryan knelt beside her, voice a low whisper. "I'm going to protect you. But I need you to trust me, okay? Can you do that?" She nodded, eyes brimming but resolute. Ryan didn't have time to question her further. He grabbed a flashlight and motioned for her to follow. "Stay close. Shadow too." They slipped out the back door into the cool desert air, the dog forging ahead with silent, confident strides. The night was alive with unseen dangers, rustling brush, distant howls, and the ever-present threat closing in. Ryan's senses sharpened as they moved swiftly toward his truck, parked a short distance away. Mia stumbled once, and Ryan caught her before she fell, steadying her with an arm. "You're stronger than you look," he said quietly, "but we need to keep moving." At the truck, Ryan quickly unlocked the door and helped Mia inside. Shadow leapt into the back seat, eyes alert and scanning. Ryan started the engine, the rumble breaking the silence. As he pulled onto the road leading away from the gas station, he kept glancing in the rearview mirror, watching the shadowed horizon for any sign of pursuit. The desert night stretched endlessly before them, a vast expanse of uncertainty. Mia sat stiffly beside him, still clutching Shadow's leash, eyes wide and unblinking. Ryan wanted to believe they were safe for now, but the gnawing feeling in his gut told him otherwise. "Can you tell me what you saw?" Ryan asked gently, breaking the silence. "What's so important that they'd come after you like this?" Mia's voice was barely above a whisper. "I don't know all of it, just pieces. Things I wasn't supposed to see. People doing things that hurt others. Things that should stay hidden." Ryan's jaw tightened. The phrase "should stay hidden" was a warning, a threat carried on the wind. He knew how quickly secrets could turn deadly, especially for someone as vulnerable as Mia. He reached over, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure this out. But first, we need to find a safe place, somewhere they won't find you." Mia nodded, exhaustion finally washing over her features. She leaned back against the seat, Shadow's warm body pressed close as if shielding her from the darkness outside. As the truck rumbled down the deserted highway, Ryan's mind raced through options. The nearest town was miles away, a speck of light on the horizon. He considered calling in favors from old contacts, but this was bigger than just a missing child or a run-of-the-mill threat. This was something darker, something that had already hunted Mia relentlessly. He glanced over at her again, the weight of responsibility settling around him like the desert dust outside. He had come here seeking peace, but peace had fled long ago. Now he was a protector, a guardian thrust into a battle he hadn't anticipated. And Mia, she was at the center of it all. Ryan adjusted his grip on the steering wheel, eyes fixed on the road ahead. Somewhere out there, danger lurked, closing in with every passing moment. But tonight, he vowed, he would Keep Mia safe, no matter the cost. The truck's tires hissed against the cracked asphalt as Ryan Cole drove steadily away from the deserted gas station. The faint glow of distant town lights flickering on the horizon like a fragile promise. Inside the cab, Mia sat rigid, clutching Shadow's leash with white-knuckled fingers, her eyes wide and unblinking, as if bracing herself for the next invisible threat. Shadow lay quietly at her feet, his sleek black coat a reassuring presence amid the tension. Ryan's mind churned, piecing together the fragments of the night. Mia's fear was palpable, a living thing that pressed against the small space between them. She was carrying a secret, something dangerous enough to make her a target. And Shadow, trained, alert, and fiercely protective, was her only shield. Ryan felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders like armor. This wasn't just about getting Mia to safety. It was about unraveling the threat that stalked her. "Can you tell me more about these people?" Ryan asked gently, breaking the silence that had stretched between them like a taut wire. His voice was steady, careful not to startle her. "Who's after you?" Mia swallowed hard, her gaze flickering to the rearview mirror as if expecting shadows to spring from the darkness behind them. "I don't know their names," she whispered. "But they're part of something bad. They hurt people. They don't want anyone to know what they do." Ryan nodded slowly, understanding the gravity behind her words. He had seen the darkness people were capable of, the kind that hid behind smiles and closed doors. "Did you see something you weren't supposed to?" he pressed. Her lips trembled. "Yes. I saw them take someone important to me. I ran because I was scared they'd come for me next." Her voice cracked, and a tear traced a line down her dusty cheek. Ryan's jaw tightened. This wasn't just a random threat. It was personal, a ruthless hunt to silence her. He reached over, brushing a stray lock of hair from her forehead with surprising tenderness. "You're not alone anymore, Mia. I'm going to help you." The truck rumbled on, the desert night stretching endlessly outside the windows. Ryan's eyes flicked frequently to the rearview mirror, scanning for any sign they were being followed. The sense of unease lingered, a silent warning that their pursuers were closer than they let on. As the miles slipped by, Ryan began formulating a plan. He needed allies, people who could provide backup, resources, and safe shelter. He thought of Elena, a local sheriff he'd worked with years ago, a woman with a reputation for integrity and grit. Calling her was risky. It might alert whoever was hunting Mia. But Ryan knew he couldn't do this alone. "We're going to find someone you can trust," he said quietly. "A sheriff named Elena. She's good. She'll keep you safe." Mia nodded, the weight of exhaustion finally breaking through her fear. "Okay." Ryan pulled off at the next exit, the truck coasting into a small diner still open despite the late hour. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of coffee and fried eggs, an island of warmth and normalcy in the vast desert night. Ryan ordered a coffee, then turned his attention back to Mia and Shadow. He pulled a folded map from his jacket pocket, spreading it on the table between them. "We need to plan our route carefully. Whoever's after you might be watching the main roads. We'll take back roads, stay off the grid." His finger traced a path through winding desert highways and forgotten trails. Mia leaned in, eyes brightening with flickers of hope. "Do you think Shadow can help?" Ryan smiled faintly. "Shadow's not just a pet. He's trained to track, protect, and even detect danger. He's your best defense out here." The dog's ears perked up at the mention of his name, tail giving a tentative wag. Ryan reached into his bag, pulling out a small packet of treats, handing one to Shadow, who accepted it with a gentle snuffle. As they sat planning, Ryan's mind raced through contingencies. The predators hunting Mia wouldn't give up easily. They'd be ruthless, calculating, and well-armed. It was a dangerous game, but Ryan's military training gave him an edge. He was familiar with tactics, with setting traps and anticipating an enemy's next move. After the quick meal, they returned to the truck, the night air cool against their skin. Ryan started the engine and headed toward the outskirts of town, where the shadows grew longer and the roads less traveled. Mia sat quietly beside him, Shadow alert in the back seat. "Do you want to tell me more about your family?" Ryan asked gently, breaking the silence once more. Mia hesitated, then nodded. "My parents, they worked for a company. I think they found out things they shouldn't have." Her voice was fragile. "Then they disappeared. I don't know if they're alive." Ryan's heart clenched at the helplessness in her voice. He had seen families torn apart by secrets before. But this was different. A child caught in a storm not of her making. "We'll find out what happened," he promised. "And we'll stop whoever's behind this." As the truck rolled deeper into the desert, Ryan's focus sharpened. He contacted an old friend using a burner phone. Elena, the sheriff he trusted. He relayed a brief, coded message. A girl in danger, needing protection, and a dark secret that could cost lives. Minutes later, a voice answered, calm and steady. "I'm on my way. Stay put and don't engage anyone." Ryan hung up, the tension in the cab easing slightly. He glanced at Mia, who was watching him with a fragile trust. Shadow nuzzled her hand, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. The trio settled into a fragile rhythm, Ryan driving, Mia quietly processing, and Shadow ever watchful. The threat they faced was unseen, but palpable, a shadow that stretched with every mile. Ryan knew this was just the beginning. The night was far from over, and the hunt had only just begun. But for now, they had a plan, an ally, and a flicker of hope in the desert's cold embrace. The truck rumbled steadily along a narrow dirt road that veered away from the highway, cutting through the arid desert scrub. Ryan's eyes flicked repeatedly to the rearview mirror, scanning the inky darkness for any sign of movement. An unexpected pair of headlights, a shadow slipping between the mesquite trees, anything that might signal they had been followed. The desert stretched endlessly, a vast expanse of silence and heat. But Ryan knew better than to trust it. Danger often hid in the quietest places. Beside him, Mia sat stiffly, her fingers entwined tightly in Shadow's thick fur. The dog, alert and poised, pressed close to her side, his ears swiveling at every distant noise. Mia's wide eyes betrayed a mixture of exhaustion and lingering terror, the kind that refused to fade, even in the presence of protection. Ryan's mind was racing, piecing together the fragments of her story, searching for a clue to what lay ahead. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a crumpled slip of paper he'd found earlier in the gas station bathroom, a hastily written note scrawled with jagged handwriting. He unfolded it carefully, the edges worn and stained, and read aloud softly, the words cutting through the stillness. "If you don't come back, we'll make sure you disappear. Keep your eyes open. They're watching. Trust no one." Mia flinched at the sound of the voice, her grip tightening on Shadow's collar. "That's them," she whispered. "They left it for me." Ryan's jaw clenched. The message was clear and deadly, a warning meant to terrify, to control. Whoever was hunting Mia wasn't just dangerous. They were ruthless and calculating. He folded the note and pocketed it, eyes narrowing as he scanned the horizon once more. They want you to be scared, he said quietly. But we're going to turn the tables. We'll make them think we're somewhere we're not. Mia looked up, a flicker of hope igniting behind her fear. How? Ryan glanced around the cab, then pulled out his phone, checking a secure app he used for encrypted communication. He tapped a few commands, sending a carefully crafted message to an old contact. A false location, a fabricated story meant to lure their pursuers into a trap. They'll take the bait, he said with grim certainty. If we play this right, we can draw them out and find out who's behind all this. Mia nodded slowly, the tension in her shoulders easing just a fraction. Shadow growled low in his throat, sensing the shift in mood, his body tensing as if ready to spring into action. The truck slowed as they approached a narrow canyon road, the towering cliffs casting long shadows beneath the moonlight. Ryan killed the headlights, allowing the vehicle to blend into the darkness. He slid the door open and stepped out. The cool night air, a sharp contrast to the stale heat inside the cab. He motioned for Mia and Shadow to follow, leading them quietly into the brush where the terrain offered concealment. The distant sound of a coyote's howl echoed through the canyon, a haunting reminder of the wilderness's indifference to human struggle. Ryan crouched low behind a cluster of rocks, pulling out a compact radio and flipping it on. A crackling voice responded almost immediately. "Elena here. Perimeter secured. What's your status?" "Location set," Ryan whispered. "They'll be here any minute. Stay sharp." Mia crouched beside him, her breath shallow but steady. Shadow lay at her feet, muscles coiled like a spring. Ryan could feel the tension radiating from them both, the raw edge of fear mixed with the steely determination to survive. Minutes stretched. The desert night cloaked in an eerie silence, broken only by the distant rustle of wind through the rocks. Then, faint headlights pierced the darkness, a vehicle approaching cautiously along the canyon road. Ryan signaled quietly to Elena's team, hidden nearby, their positions marked by faint red lights. The hunters were walking into the trap. As the vehicle slowed near their concealed position, Ryan's pulse quickened. The door opened, and a figure stepped out, tall, imposing, eyes scanning the darkness with predatory intent. Ryan caught the glint of a gun, tucked at the hunter's side, and recognized the cold calculation in his stance. Mia's hand tightened on Shadow's collar, and the dog growled low, warning of the imminent danger. Ryan raised a hand, signaling for calm, waiting for the moment to strike. Suddenly, the silence shattered as Elena's team moved in, surrounding the vehicle with swift precision. Flashlights blinded the hunters, and commands rang out in sharp bursts. "Freeze! Hands where we can see them!" The tall figure snarled, reaching for his weapon, but Shadow was faster. The German shepherd lunged, teeth snapping as he tackled the man to the ground, forcing him to the dirt before he could draw his gun. Ryan moved in alongside Elena, cuffing the man with practiced efficiency. Other hunters emerged from the shadows, but the team was ready, quickly disarming and subduing them. As the dust settled, Ryan's eyes locked onto the man Shadow had pinned, a ruthless enforcer whose icy glare held a dark secret. In the harsh moonlight, Ryan saw the flicker of recognition in the man's eyes. "Who sent you?" Ryan demanded, voice low and sharp. The man spat defiantly. "Doesn't matter. You're too late. They'll come for you all." Ryan's jaw tightened. This was no ordinary gang. It was something deeper, a network of corruption and violence that reached farther than he had imagined. He turned to Mia, who was watching with wide, fearful eyes. "You did good, Shadow," Ryan said, kneeling to stroke the dog's head. The bond between the girl and her protector was palpable, a lifeline in the darkness. Elena approached, her expression grim but resolute. "We'll take it from here. The department will want to question these guys, and we'll get you somewhere safe." Ryan nodded, feeling a brief surge of relief. But he knew this was just the beginning. The note, the threats, the ruthless hunters. They were pieces of a larger puzzle. As the first rays of dawn began to creep over the canyon walls, Ryan watched Mia and Shadow being escorted to safety. The desert had tested them, but they had survived the night's deadly game. And now, the real fight was only just beginning. The dawn's pale light filtered through the cracked windows of a modest motel room just outside Silver Ridge, casting long shadows across the worn furniture. Ryan sat at the small table, a laptop open before him, the screen casting a bluish glow on his focused face. Mia lay on the bed nearby, wrapped in a thick blanket, Shadow curled protectively at her feet. The quiet hum of the early morning was a fragile contrast to the violent night that had passed. Ryan's fingers tapped rapidly across the keyboard as he pieced together information, weaving through encrypted channels and discreet contacts. The hunters they'd trapped were just the surface. Their capture had stirred something deeper, a web of corruption that extended far beyond the desert's edge. Ryan knew time was running out. Mia stirred, blinking awake, her eyes heavy but alert. She glanced at the glowing screen, then back to Ryan. "Are they coming back?" Her voice was small, but the edge of fear remained. Ryan closed the laptop and met her gaze. "They will. That's why we need to move smart. We're not just running anymore. We're planning." He pulled a crumpled map from the table, smoothing it out. Lines and markers traced routes and safe zones. But Ryan's focus was on the shadowy figures behind the threat, the mountain vipers, a trafficking ring Mia had unwittingly stumbled upon. Their reach was sinister and far-reaching, and their corrupt ties within Silver Ridge's police department made them even more dangerous. "We need to find evidence," Ryan explained, voice low but steady. "Something concrete that ties the vipers to their operations here. Without proof, no one will believe us." Mia listened intently, her fingers tracing the edge of the blanket. "How do we do that without getting caught?" Ryan's gaze hardened. "By using what we have, Shadow's instincts, your courage, and my experience. We'll go back to where they attacked you. There's a chance they left something behind, something we can use." Mia nodded, determination flickering in her eyes. "I want to help. I don't want anyone else to get hurt." Ryan smiled faintly. "Good, because this won't be easy." They spent the next hour preparing, packing essentials and reviewing the plan. Ryan checked and rechecked his gear. Flashlight, camera, GPS tracker, and a concealed handgun. He looked over at Mia, who was methodically brushing Shadow's fur, her small hands steady despite the tension. Outside, the sun climbed higher, burning away the chill of night. Ryan led Mia and Shadow through the quiet streets of Silver Ridge, the town still waking. The mountain trails loomed ahead, their rugged paths winding into the thick forest. The place where Mia had been ambushed was a shadowed stretch of trail, concealed by dense pines and rocky outcroppings. As they moved cautiously, Ryan's military training kicked in, scanning for signs of recent activity, broken branches, footprints, anything that might reveal their enemy's presence. Shadow's nose twitched, and the dog paused, ears pricked, tail stiffening. "There," Ryan whispered, pointing to a faint trail leading off the main path. They followed it in silence, the weight of the woods pressing around them. The scent of pine mixed with the damp earth, and the distant call of a hawk echoed overhead. Suddenly, Shadow stopped abruptly, pawing at a patch of disturbed soil. Ryan knelt down, brushing away leaves to reveal a discarded piece of fabric, dark, torn, and stained. He pocketed it carefully, a tangible clue. "We're getting closer," he said quietly. Further along, they found a small clearing where the snow had melted unevenly, revealing a set of footprints. Ryan crouched to examine them, noting the size and depth. "Multiple people," he muttered. "Heavy boots. They came through here recently." Mia swallowed hard but kept moving, her eyes sharp and alert. Shadow sniffed the air, then darted ahead, finding a small metal box half buried beneath a bush. Ryan pried it open to reveal a collection of documents: ledgers, receipts, and photographs. His heart quickened. This was it, the evidence they needed. "We have to get this back to Elena," Ryan said, his voice tense but hopeful. "If we can prove the mountain vipers are operating here, we can take them down." Mia nodded, a fierce light igniting in her eyes. "Let's do it." They retraced their steps carefully, aware that the moment their enemies discovered the missing evidence, the hunt would intensify. Ryan kept a sharp eye on the tree line, muscles coiled for any sign of movement. As they neared the edge of the forest, a sudden rustle made them freeze. Shadows shifted among the trees, and Ryan's hand went instinctively to his sidearm. Shadow growled low, a warning growl that sent a ripple through the tense silence. From the brush emerged Brina Lakak, a local park ranger with a calm demeanor and keen eyes that missed little. "I thought I'd find you here," she said softly, stepping into the clearing. "I brought supplies, and I'm ready to help." Ryan relaxed, slightly, but kept his guard up. "Good timing," he replied. "We found evidence of the Viper's operations. Now we need to get it to the authorities without alerting their contacts." Brina nodded, pulling a backpack from behind her. "I know some back routes and safe spots. I can get you out quickly." Mia looked relieved, her shoulders easing. "Thank you." The trio moved quickly, with Shadow leading the way, his nose twitching at every scent. Ryan briefed them on the plan to avoid main roads, using Brina's knowledge of the wilderness to their advantage. As they reached the edge of the forest, Ryan felt a surge of cautious optimism. They had the evidence, allies, and a plan. But the danger was far from over. The mountain vipers were ruthless, and the corrupt officer Ryan had suspected was still out there, watching and waiting. The coming days would test their resolve, their trust, and their courage. For now, though, they had a chance, a slim, dangerous chance to bring light to the darkness that had haunted Silver Ridge. Ryan glanced at Mia and Brina, then down at Shadow, whose eyes shone with unwavering loyalty. Together, they would face whatever came next. The late afternoon sun dipped low behind the jagged peaks surrounding Silver Ridge, casting long shadows over the rugged landscape. Ryan stood near the edge of the forest, his gaze sweeping the narrow canyon road below where Elena's team had established a perimeter. The air was tense, charged with anticipation. This was more than a stakeout. It was a trap, carefully laid to draw out the mountain vipers, and the corrupt officer Ryan suspected was pulling strings from within the police department. Beside him, Brina checked her gear, her calm demeanor a sharp contrast to the simmering anxiety beneath the surface. Mia sat quietly on a nearby rock, Shadow resting his head on her lap, eyes alert. The trio had hunkered down in a small clearing that offered both cover and a vantage point over the canyon below. It was a far cry from the warmth of the cabin they had left behind, but the stakes demanded vigilance. Ryan crouched, pulling a map from his backpack and tracing the route the vipers were expected to take. He turned to Mia, who met his gaze with a quiet determination. "This is it," he said softly. "We've got one shot to make this count." Mia nodded. "I'm ready." The sound of distant engines rumbled through the canyon, growing steadily louder. Ryan's pulse quickened. The hunters were coming. He keyed his radio, his voice low but firm. "Elena, status?" "Perimeter secure," came the reply. "Teams in position, waiting for your signal." Ryan scanned the tree line. Every muscle coiled for action. The first vehicle appeared, a black SUV creeping cautiously along the winding road. Ryan's eyes narrowed as he spotted the driver. A man with a hardened expression, eyes sharp and calculating. The enforcer they'd captured before had been only a piece of the puzzle. This was the next level. As the convoy progressed, Ryan's team tightened their formation, ready to close the trap. Shadow shifted at Mia's side, muscles tense, his instincts razor-sharp. Suddenly, the convoy came to a halt in the narrow canyon, boxed in by Elena's units, stationed both above and below the road. Ryan's radio crackled with commands as officers moved in, weapons drawn. "Freeze! This is a police operation." Elena's voice rang out, authoritative and commanding. The lead vehicle's door swung open, and Ryan recognized Lieutenant Sterling, the corrupt officer who had orchestrated much of the Mountain Viper's operations. His gaze flicked briefly toward Ryan, a cold smile curling his lips. "You think you've won?" Sterling sneered. "You have no idea what you're up against." Ryan stepped forward, voice steady. "It's over, Sterling. We have the evidence. You're finished." Sterling laughed, a harsh, bitter sound that echoed against the canyon walls. "You're naive, Cole. The Vipers have eyes everywhere. This is just the beginning." Without warning, the tension exploded into chaos. Sterling's men opened fire, bullets ricocheting off rocks and trees. Elena's team dove for cover, returning fire with precision honed by years of training. The narrow canyon became a battlefield. Ryan dove behind a boulder, pulling Mia to safety as Shadow barked fiercely, charging toward the attackers. The dog's agility and speed disrupted the Viper's assault, buying precious seconds for the officers to regroup. Amid the gunfire, Ryan spotted Sterling moving toward a child, used as a shield, his weapon trained with deadly intent. Time slowed as Shadow launched himself at Sterling, teeth sinking into the man's arm, forcing him to drop the weapon with a grunt of pain. Ryan seized the moment, rushing forward to cuff Sterling before he could recover. The rest of the Vipers were quickly subdued, their resistance crumbling under coordinated pressure. As the dust settled, Ryan stood panting, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Mia clung to Shadow, tears streaming down her face, but eyes shining with relief. Elena's approached, her expression grim but victorious. Sterling's in custody. The rest are being rounded up. Ryan nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. Justice had been served, but the scars ran deep. He looked down at Mia, offering a small smile. "You did great." Mia managed a shaky nod, hugging Shadow tightly. Brina stepped forward, her eyes scanning the canyon. "It's not over yet. We need to ensure this operation doesn't just fall apart." Ryan agreed. The Mountain Vipers were dismantled, but the corruption behind them was a stain that would take time to erase. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the canyon in deep orange and purple hues, Ryan, Mia, Brina, and Shadow stood together, an unlikely alliance forged in the crucible of danger. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, ready to rebuild what had been broken. The road ahead was uncertain, but for now, there was justice, and there was hope. Night had settled deep over the narrow canyon, wrapping Silver Ridge in an oppressive cloak of shadows and silence. The air was thick with the scent of dust and pine, mingling with the residual tension still crackling from the day's violent confrontation. Ryan stood at the edge of the makeshift command post, a dimly lit clearing nestled among towering pines. His gaze fixed on the distant flicker of police lights, weaving through the winding canyon road below. Mia sat nearby, her knees hugged tightly to her chest, eyes wide and reflective. Shadow rested his head on her lap, alert but calm. A steadfast guardian in the quiet aftermath. The adrenaline that had fueled them all day was ebbing, replaced by a somber realization. The fight was far from over. Ryan's thoughts churned, replaying the chaos of the ambush, the sharp crack of gunfire, the thudding impact of Shadow's leap on Sterling, the desperate scramble to protect a child used as a shield. The memory of Sterling's cold smile haunted him, a stark reminder of the depths of corruption they faced. Elena approached, her footsteps light on the forest floor. "We've secured the area," she reported, voice steady but laced with exhaustion. "Sterling and the others are in custody, but the investigation is just beginning. There's a lot we don't know." Ryan nodded, rubbing a hand over his stubbled jaw. "We're going to need every bit of evidence we can get, and we have to be prepared for retaliation." Brina joined them, her eyes scanning the tree line. The Vipers had deep roots here. Their network extends beyond Silver Ridge, and there are still people loyal to them. Mia looked up from her vigil, voice barely above a whisper. "They said they'd come back for me." Ryan's gaze softened. "Not if we stop them first." The group quickly moved into planning mode. Ryan laid out a map on a makeshift table fashioned from a fallen log, tracing routes and marking key locations. The plan was to secure Mia in a protected safe house, gather intelligence on remaining operatives, and coordinate with federal authorities to dismantle the trafficking ring completely. As night deepened, Ryan found himself alone for a moment, stepping away to the edge of the clearing. The desert stars stretched overhead, cold and indifferent. He pulled his phone from his jacket and sent a brief, encrypted message to an old contact, a request for backup and resources. The fight was growing, and he needed allies. Returning to the group, Ryan found Mia staring into the firelight, her face pale but resolute. "I want to help," she said firmly. "I don't want anyone else to get hurt because of me." Ryan smiled, a flicker of pride cutting through the fatigue. "You already have. And we're going to make sure it ends here." The hours passed in tense preparation. Elena and Brina coordinated with local law enforcement and federal agents, while Ryan reviewed surveillance footage and cross-referenced data from seized devices. Shadow remained a constant presence, alert and protective, sensing every shift in the atmosphere. Suddenly, a crackling noise interrupted the quiet. A radio call from the perimeter. Elena's voice was sharp, urgent. "Movement detected near the East Ridge. Possible hostile approaching." Ryan's heart rate spiked. "Ready positions. Don't engage unless necessary." The team moved swiftly, weapons drawn, shadows slipping through the trees with practiced stealth. The night air was charged with anticipation, every rustle magnified. As they neared the ridge, a figure emerged from the darkness. A local informant, breathless and wide-eyed. "They're coming back," the man warned. "Reinforcements. Bigger than before." Ryan exchanged a grim glance with Elena and Brina. The battle was escalating. Back at the safe house, Mia clung to Shadow, eyes searching for reassurance. Ryan knelt beside her, voice steady. "We're going to be okay. You're not alone." The night stretched on, a fragile calm before the storm. Ryan's mind raced, preparing for the next confrontation. The mountain vipers were ruthless, their grip tightening like a noose around Silver Ridge. But Ryan, Mia, Elena, Brina, and Shadow stood ready, united by trust, courage, and the unyielding will to protect what was right. As the first light of dawn threatened the horizon, the team steeled themselves for the fight to come, knowing that in the shadows of Silver Ridge, heroes were forged in fire. The morning sun seeped through the thin curtains of the safe house, casting muted light across the room where Mia sat curled on a worn couch. Shadow nestled protectively at her feet. The sterile quiet was a fragile reprieve from the chaos that had consumed the past days. Though physically safe, the emotional scars lingered. Her eyes held a cautious wariness, the kind that only comes from running from danger too long. Ryan entered quietly, his footsteps soft on the creaky wooden floor. The weight of the previous night's events pressed heavily on him. The ambush, the narrow escape, the knowledge that the mountain viper's reach still stretched deep and far. He took a seat across from Mia, folding his hands in his lap and offering a gentle smile. "How are you feeling?" he asked, voice low but steady. Mia shrugged, eyes drifting to the window. "Safe, I guess. But it still feels like they're out there, watching." Ryan nodded. "That feeling doesn't go away overnight. But you're not alone anymore." Shadow lifted his head, letting out a soft whine as if echoing Ryan's reassurance. The door creaked open, and Elena stepped inside, her face lined with exhaustion but determined. "We've secured the perimeter around town. The arrests have slowed their operations, but there are still loose ends." Ryan's expression hardened. "Do we have any leads on the corrupt officers' network?" Elena pulled a folder from her bag, sliding it across the table. "Some officers are cooperating, but the department's morale is fractured. It'll take time to root out the rot." Mia's gaze sharpened. "What happens to me? Will I have to testify?" Ryan looked at her, understanding the weight of that question. "If you're ready, yes. Your testimony could be what finally brings them down." Mia swallowed hard, nodding slowly. "I want to stop them." Ryan stood, pacing the room as he gathered his thoughts. "We need to be careful. The mountain vipers have resources and allies. They'll try to intimidate or silence anyone who speaks out." Elena agreed. "Protective custody will be necessary, and we'll coordinate with federal agents to ensure your safety." Brina entered next, carrying a bag of supplies and a calming presence. "I've arranged for additional security at the shelter. We're not taking any chances." Ryan looked around at the team, Mia, Elena, Brina, and Shadow, and felt a surge of resolve. They had come too far to back down now. Over the next few days, Mia began to open up, sharing fragmented pieces of her past and the secrets she'd uncovered. The weight of her silence lifted slightly with each conversation, replaced by a growing strength fueled by trust and the support around her. Ryan coordinated with Elena and Brina, overseeing security measures and preparing for the upcoming legal battle. He kept a watchful eye on Mia, ensuring she felt safe and empowered. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky blazed with crimson, Ryan found Mia sitting outside, Shadow by her side, gazing at the distant mountains. "I'm scared," she admitted quietly, "but I'm not going to let them win." Ryan sat beside her, the cool breeze ruffling their hair. "You're braver than most adults I know, and you're not alone." Shadow rested his head on Mia's lap, offering comfort without words. As the town slowly began to heal, Ryan realized that their fight was more than just a battle against criminals. It was a struggle to reclaim hope, trust, and safety for a community fractured by darkness. The road ahead was uncertain, but together, they would face it head-on. The bonds forged in adversity had created a foundation strong enough to weather whatever storms lay ahead. And in the quiet moments between chaos, Ryan found a renewed sense of purpose: to protect, to fight, and to stand with those who could not stand alone. The courthouse in Silver Ridge buzzed with a tension that was almost tangible, a mixture of anticipation and unease threading through the gathered crowd. Ryan stood near the back of the courtroom, his posture rigid, eyes fixed on the witness stand where Mia sat flanked by a protective officer. Her small frame was steady, her hands folded in her lap, despite the weight of every gaze upon her. This was the culmination of weeks of struggle, the chance to finally dismantle the mountain vipers and hold those responsible accountable. The evidence they had painstakingly gathered served as the backbone of the prosecution, but it was Mia's testimony that would bring the darkness into the light. The courtroom was packed. Locals who had lived under the shadow of fear, law enforcement officers, and representatives from federal agencies. The air was thick with a fragile hope, mingled with the harsh reality that this was only the beginning of a long fight for justice. The prosecutor approached Mia, voice calm and encouraging. "Can you tell us what you witnessed, Mia?" Mia took a deep breath, her voice steady but soft. "I saw things that no one should have to see. People being hurt, people taken away." Her eyes scanned the faces before her, finding strength in their attention. "I ran because I was scared, but I want to stop them." As she recounted the events, the threats, the ambush, and the corruption, Ryan felt a wave of pride and protectiveness. Mia was no longer just a frightened girl. She was a beacon of courage. Outside the courtroom, Brina and Elena coordinated with security, ensuring that the proceedings were safe from interference. Ryan stood nearby, alert and watchful, ready for any threats that might arise. The defense attorney tried to undermine Mia's credibility, casting doubt and sowing fear. But Mia held firm, her voice unwavering as she stood her ground. Shadow sat quietly at her side, a silent guardian. After hours of testimony and legal wrangling, the jury retired to deliberate. The courtroom emptied slowly, whispers filling the halls as people awaited the verdict. Ryan found a quiet corner, his mind heavy with the weight of what had transpired. He looked at Mia, who was surrounded by the quiet support of Elena and Brina. Despite her exhaustion, there was a spark of resilience in her eyes. When the jury returned, the room fell silent. The foreman's voice cut through the stillness. "We find the defendant guilty on all counts." A collective sigh of relief swept through the courtroom. Mia's shoulders relaxed, tears spilling down her cheeks, not of fear, but of release. Ryan stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did it." Outside, the sun shone brightly over Silver Ridge, a stark contrast to the shadows that had plagued the town for so long. The verdict was a victory, but Ryan knew the healing process had only just begun. Mia was placed under protective custody, with plans in motion to help her rebuild her life away from danger. The bonds forged through their shared ordeal had created a new family, a network of guardians committed to her safety. Ryan looked out over the town, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. His journey had brought him here, to this moment where courage, trust, and justice converged. The fight against the mountain vipers was far from over. But today, a line had been drawn. The darkness had been confronted, and for the first time in a long while, Silver Ridge could breathe a little easier. As Mia, Shadow, Elena, Brina, and Ryan stood together, the weight of their struggle transformed into a quiet strength, a testament to the power of resilience and the unbreakable bonds forged in the face of adversity. The afternoon sun cast a warm glow over Silver Ridge, bathing the town in light that seemed to chase away the lingering shadows of its recent past. In the quiet park near the center of town, Ryan stood alongside Mia, Elena, Brina, and Shadow, each of them marked by the trials they had endured, but unbowed in spirit. The crisp mountain air carried the scent of blooming wildflowers, a gentle reminder of renewal and hope. Mia's smile was tentative but genuine as she watched Shadow romp freely across the grassy field, his tail wagging with unrestrained joy. The dog had become more than a protector. He was a symbol of the loyalty and courage that had carried them through the darkest nights. Ryan's gaze softened as he observed the bond between girl and dog, a bond forged in adversity and tempered by trust. Elena leaned against the railing nearby, exchanging quiet words with Brina about the progress being made in cleaning up the corruption that had seeped into the town's institutions. The fight was ongoing, but the community was rallying, galvanized by the courage of unexpected heroes who had stepped forward in the face of danger. Ryan reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From the frozen gas station bathroom where he first found Mia and Shadow, through the perilous nights and brutal confrontations, to the courtroom battles and the slow rebuilding of shattered lives. It was a path marked by sacrifice, but also by the resilience that defined them all. "We did something good here," Ryan said quietly, breaking the comfortable silence between them. Mia looked up, eyes bright. "I feel safe now, like I have a future." Brina smiled, her voice warm. "And there's more to come. Plans for a wildlife rescue center are moving forward, thanks in part to what we've been through." Elena nodded. "The police department is reforming, and with the Vipers dismantled, Silver Ridge can finally start to heal." Ryan's thoughts drifted to the countless others who still needed protection, the unseen battles fought in shadows far from the public eye. But here, in this moment, there was peace, a hard-won sanctuary built on trust, courage, and the unyielding will to stand together. As the sun dipped lower, casting golden hues across the mountains, the group stood united, a testament to the power of unexpected alliances forged in crisis. Their story was one of resilience, justice, and the enduring strength found in loyalty and bravery. In the heart of Silver Ridge, beneath the vast sky and amid the whispering pines, hope had taken root, and with it, the promise of a safer tomorrow.